G'day YouTubers. Well, it's taken a while, but these stars have finally aligned, and I am starting on the second phase of modifications that I plan to do to the electronics on this boat when I bought it. I spent most of this time tossing up between getting a second Raymarine unit so that I could network them together and share the screens across, etc., and putting something different in. I eventually decided to go with a Humminbird because of its one-boat network. Not that I can currently use everything in the one-boat network. The Mincoder is about the only thing that I have that will work on that, but I may get another downrigger in the future that will work on the one-boat network, so I thought it was worthwhile having it. And once I finally decided to get the Humminbird unit, it was just a matter of deciding how big a unit I could fit. It turned out that I couldn't go much above 8 inches and still have visibility out of the front of the windscreen because I couldn't mount it in the dash. The dash on my boat is very small and it came with a very small Garmin unit mounted in the dash. So I'm replacing that, and I have to put it on an arm to mount it up off the dash and not so high that it blocks my view out the windscreen. Then it was a matter of shopping around to find the best price that I could on it. Took me a few hours and searched all over Australia and all the shops, eBay, Amazon, all the rest of it. I eventually came up with a price that was about 60% of recommended retail and went ahead and purchased that one. I was pretty happy with that find. The unit came with everything I needed: the mega side imaging transducer and power cord, all the usual mounting brackets, etc. So all good to go. Start installing. So I've got some melamine here to plug up the hole in the dash of the Garmin template. Got it left over from a kitchen job I did on the previous house. I'm going to cut this with a router to make a nice neat cut. I'll have to take a couple of passes now. A spare piece here about the same size as the one I wanted. This is the one I wanted. I'm going to round the corners off like that. If you can see it in this light, you might not. Anyhow, I've got some marks there just to round the corners off with a little bit of shape. Similar to the Garmin unit I took out of the dashboard. That's it finished. Cut the shape, a little bit of curve on the edges and bevel the top piece of it. All I've got to do is drill some holes in to mount it now, and then drill some holes in to mount the bracket for the new sounder. I don't think the camera recorded that segment, but you can see there I've cut in a recess all around the edge of this. I took it down to the boat and I marked it around where the actual cutout in the dashboard was. Then I've cut a recess with the router just freehand going around the mark I made so that sits down into the dashboard and it won't move, it'll hold it in place. Then I'm going to cut some aluminium here, which I can then bolt through on the back of it, and that will cause a pressure fit against the fiberglass, the thickness of the fiberglass. It'll just stand off the corian a little bit, so I can pull it in with a bolt and nut, and that'll hold it in place. Pretty much the same way that the sounder was held in place in that position. With a bit of thick plexus elastic around the edge of it, I'm thinking that'll be plenty strong enough to hold the new sounder. Here's my piece of corian, it's finally almost finished. I drilled the holes in it. I'll give you a good look at it in a minute. I just got to get the jigsaw and widen this top hole. I drilled 2 holes through here. I just got to cut them in between. I'll explain it later. Let's have a look at him. That's a bit of aluminium that I'm going to use across the back of it to hold it in place. There are 4 holes here through for the ram mount and 4 holes on the edge mainly to hold the aluminium up close to the edge of the fiberglass, give it some strength. Not that it'll need it because that recessed lip is going to hold it in place pretty well. There's just plastic on it, she's going to be solid. And then I cut these two, drilled 2 holes down through there and cut in between them. That's where all the wires are going to come through. Now I'm going to need the power cord, the transducer cable and the NEMA 2000 cable. And I may also want to run a transducer cable off my Minn Koda. It comes with a built-in transducer which I've never used. And I'm sort of thinking now, I've got a Humminbird, it's supposed to hook up straight to the Humminbird, so I'm sort of thinking I might hook that up. Giving it some thought anyway and preparing for it, so I made the hole slightly larger than I'd need in case I want to connect some other things at a later date. Oh, and just while we're here, that's the ram mount. 2 big balls in the mounting. I'm putting that on there like that, and that will hold there like that. Actually, the other way around, because I'm stronger right-handed, so I want to be able to tighten it with my right hand. So yeah, it's going to sit on the dash like that, and the bracket for the sounder is going to mount on that. And then it's adjustable within limits, but it is a little bit adjustable so that I should be able to position it exactly where I want. And that's the hole now. I've cut it with a jigsaw and had the file onto it a bit. Doesn't look too bad. Not 100%, but by the time you get the cables through, you'll never notice that little bit of cockeyedness in it, just where I filed it into the corners. So that'll do, that's all done. Just got to be mounted up now with once I get the bolts, for stainless steel bolts, of course. Any steel to do with a boat is stainless steel. Right, everything's prepped and ready to go now. That's all drilled and it's going to sit in there. Yeah, okay, that's going to sit in there like that. Wires through there, aluminium bolted on behind it there, and the ram mount there. So first thing to do is to get some plastic around the edge, because if water drips in here I don't want it dripping down into the wiring behind here. So I'm going to seal that all up, make it a little bit harder if it's ever got to come out, but best to do it. I've got this on and I had to have my wife's help to do a bit of it, so I didn't have the camera on. I couldn't manage to do it and have the camera on. So what we've got is the plates on. I think I've shown you that already. The ram mount's on, I've shown you that. The mount for the Humminbird is on, and this is the Humminbird plug. You get 2 wires that comes in and they give you this case to put your plugs in, and there's 5 possible connections. This one's power, this one's your transducer, one of these others is your network, and I'm not sure what the other 2 are yet. I will be putting the network on it for the NEMA 2000. That's about it. That's a good idea, I think, having all your plugs all in one fitting, so you just plug the whole thing in. Sounds like a good idea anyway. See how it works in practice. Bit tidier back here now. We've got the Garmin unit isn't sticking into the area. I could probably do something about getting a better fuse board in here, into this area, at some later date. A little bit past it at the moment, but at a later date I could get a better fuse board in here and tidy this all up a bit as well. See, all those inline fuses don't need to be there if I could run it all through a fuse board. So yeah, just a thought for a later time though. And there we go, there's the Humminbird in position. I can still see my instruments below, not that I really need them because I got them duplicated on the Rain Axiom unit. Compass is still visible and I have sufficient view out of the windscreen. So yeah, I am fairly happy with that, I think. Yeah, I can't see anywhere else that I could put it which would be any better, so I'll power it on and see what happens. Alright, we have power to the circuit and nothing's gone bang yet, so that's a good start. Where is our power switch? That one would be it. Whoa, there we go. Now I'm going to video the full procedure here because I haven't used this sort of steam saver before. It's different. It's not using glue. It actually uses a self-adhesive sort of label type arrangement. where you peel the backing off and stick it on. Now it's using a 3M adhesive, so I've got a lot of confidence in 3M products. Very light, this one too, a lot lighter than these others. Different material obviously. He's going to go. I didn't realise how windy it was on the day that I did this, but I can't understand what I'm saying above the wind noise. So I'm recording some audio over it and just hitting the highlights of what I did during the installation. Now first of all, this brand gives you a Scotch-Brite pad and one alcohol wipe to clean the area that you're going to apply it to. I didn't think that was sufficient, so I grabbed a little bit of sandpaper and used that before I used the Scotch pad. And I had to use some water to wipe off the dust. The instructions do tell you to do that. And in lieu of having 2 or 3 alcohol wipes like come with the other brand I've used, I used the water, cleaned it off, let it dry, and then used the alcohol wipe and cleaned it up finally before I put it on. It was all pretty simple. I did have some dimples where the screws were in the fiberglass to hold the previous transducer in place. As you put the screws in, they caused a little bit of a dimple in the fiberglass, so I had to sand that down so this one sat flat. Wasn't a big deal. Just be aware that if you're putting it over somewhere that's already had some screws in it, just make sure there's no dimples in there to hold it away, otherwise you won't get a good adhesive contact. And finally, the bond is only as good as the preparation, so make sure you get it really clean, get it really scuffed up so that the glue can do its job, or in this case the self-adhesive pad, and you shouldn't have any problems. I haven't used this brand before, as I said, but I have total confidence in 3M products, so I'm expecting it's going to be fine. I will let you know if there is a problem with it in the future, but if you don't hear anything, you know it's worked. I'll run a quick rub down with the alcohol swab and then let that dry. Yes, I push hard on the centre for 15 seconds, then push hard on the edges for 15 seconds. So I've given you a little push pin to ease the edge of this up. Easier said than done. So they warn you not to move it once you, or touch it, don't touch it, and don't move it once you get it positioned. So getting on those pencil lines along the top, settling down and push. And I did bring a watch or a phone, so I'm just going to have to go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Oh, I reckon that was over a minute. Oh, I was pushing as hard as I could. Oh, so if I hadn't got him solidly locked on, I don't think anything ever will. This one's a bigger block than the other stern saver I've got for the big transducer. Very different material. See how she goes. Yeah, I can't mount the transducer on that until it's dry. At least 15 hours they say, but I'll give it 24. I've marked the 3 slots here, just roughly in positions. I'm going to screw into the centre of each of the slots, and hopefully that'll give me enough adjustment. It's a stern saver block, so if I've got to move the screws, it's no big deal. Just nicer if I can manage to nail it first time round. I'm going to end up drilling a starter hole in this. They say you don't need a pilot hole, and that's probably fair enough, but I'm going to have a starter hole nevertheless. The screws into this material easy enough. Don't tighten them up straight away. Once these are in, and then we can mount the transducer on there. Now, again, not tightening them up properly straight away, just putting enough tension on them so that I can still move it. Okay, still move that and it'll hold its position. So now, I'll put its initial height. That'll tight. I used the centre one because I want to make sure we get this straight up and down, which I think we have. Let's go ahead and nip these up. Now I'm going to start off with this level because my boat sits up a little bit when it's on the plane, so I figure if I start off with this level, she'll face down a bit just naturally. That'll do. That's the transducer mounted. Now, just got to do something with this. Right, now I'm down to screwing these things on, which means I need a good deal of stick flex to do the sealing on it. Okay, I got everyone's favourite repair tool, some duct tape, and I've stuck it as best I could on the inside of these holes, just to stop the stick flex from flowing all the way through the bait. I just cleaned that off with some methane now, and that's complete. I might have to adjust it once I get it in the water and try it out, but we'll just have to see how it goes first. Well, that's it. The Hummingbird's installed, and I just need to do some water trials now to see if the transducer is positioned correctly. It's probably not. I always need to adjust the transducers a little bit after I put them in. But that's fine. I will do some screenshots in the future so you can see the quality of the Humminbird unit. I don't expect that it will be as useful as the Raymarine unit I have because the screen is much smaller. The bigger screen means it's easier to see what's happening on the screen. Humminbird unit is supposed to have a higher resolution, being a higher frequency transducer, so that may compensate a little bit. That remains to be seen. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more of my videos, go to my YouTube channel. Until next time, good fishing.